Born Superhuman really is about all of us. We're all born with this incredible ability to exceed societal expectations. And my life kind of highlights that, but not because I'm better than anybody else. It's just I had these things thrown at me. And I'm a huge believer that we don't really have roadblocks. We just have obstacles that come along, and how we handle them really comes from our own character. And we can always develop our character. So a quick little recap. Yeah, I'd gone through, wanting to be a footballer. That was my whole life as a kid. And so many of, your listeners, viewers will get it. My whole life was that. And I was fortunate enough to get scouted and seen by Crystal Palace as a youth player, and then had trials with Brian Clough, brought me into Nottingham Forest to go up there, and who was a legend. I captained my county team back in Dorset, and had a very, big upbringing, I should say, in football. But when I was at Bournemouth, I just decided it wasn't for me. It wasn't what I thought it was going to be. It wasn't the professional game. So I started doing aerobics, getting, supple for mountain climbing. And the teacher there said, you should become a dancer. I'm like, what? A dancer? Here I was, the shaved head. I'm carrying 50-pound backpacks running on the sand. But I thought, I'll just do it for a laugh. So I went up and I got offered a full 3-year scholarship to start in 2 weeks' time. And I'm like, am I going to do this? I'd never even thought of dancing. It's not a man's sport. And so I did it just for a laugh, and then found out I could act, sing. I won't tell your viewers to imagine me in ballet tights, but I did do ballet.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like the Billy Elliot story. I was very fortunate in, a year and a half to be in Andrew Lloyd Webber's shows on the West End. Ended up going all over, and I'm going to cut this story really short, but, toured Japan with the show, Germany, and opened the show out here in America. And during one of the shows, I had an accident on stage. I fractured my spine. I was paralyzed. They said I'll be disabled.
And this is in the middle of a live performance.
And
in front of thousands of people. Wow.
Middle of a live. Yeah. And it was at the Las Vegas Hilton, which is where Elvis Presley used to perform. And I'm like, what am I going to do? Well, I'm just going to cut to the chase. It's not a supportive system. It was cheaper to disable me than it was to help fix me. So I had to take my own journey back into my hands and say, I'm not going to become a statistic. And there's something that I think everyone can relate to. Why
when
be
you
a
say it was
victim
cheaper, you mean
when you
the
can
medical
be a hero?
system? It was cheaper just to leave you disabled effectively.
Yeah. Disable him, give him a little bit of, workers' comp every week. Who was going to employ me? Who would come back in? Or, I was in show business. I wanted to do movies. I came to America to do all this different stuff. Why would I settle? And as I said, why become a victim of a system or a thought process when you can become the hero? And it's not the hero for someone else. It's the hero for yourself. So I started coaching football from a chair, very quickly had tremendous success because of my background, and took this group of players that had never won a game to third in the state in 7 weeks. I suddenly become a head coach on the Olympic program over here, Nike Coach of the Year, Under Armour.
Were you doing this from a wheelchair?
Spokesperson. I started. Yeah. Well, to begin with, I was, but I was working myself back in.
You talk about this a kind of a switch in the mindset, this decision, I'm going to be the hero. But how long did it? So you had this horrendous moment. You're on stage. You're seriously injured. How long did it take you to shift? Because I'm sure there was a period of that where you were absolutely horrified, terrified, in trauma, in a lot of pain, wondering what your future held for you. How long did it take you to shift your mindset? And what was the process you used? Because I'm sure it wasn't immediate. You didn't lie there and go, that's no problem. I'm superhuman.
No. Yeah, I didn't even think of it at that time because, look, growing up as kids, we got injured all the time. You get hurt. It's okay, you don't think about it. But the scariest moment, Paul, for me was the night of the accident. I'm lying in the hospital bed and I lost sight in my right eye. I couldn't see. And I was so scared to go to sleep that night because I was worried if I wake up in the morning, if I lost sight in my left eye, will I never see again? And what it was, I hit my head first against a wall at about 30 miles an hour, during the show. And the optical nerve, there was so much swelling in my brain that it put pressure on the optical nerves that stopped it from being able to receive light and see. But I didn't know that. I didn't know much about health at that time. And so that was the scariest thing. So when I finally fell asleep that night and woke up the next morning, I could see that immediately gave me hope that things could get better. Now, the doctors, again, they just wanted to push me through the system. And it got to the point where I could begin to feel tingling again.
Were
I
you
could begin to
paralyzed at
feel
this stage?
movement again. Yeah, like I could move my toes a little bit. It wasn't a paraplegic type of paralysis. Couldn't move my arms. I could feel some sort of feeling, not in my arms, but in my lower extremities. So then I looked at it, and it sounds weird, but I was more determined than ever in my life to overcome an obstacle. Because, when you're trying out for a football team, you got to get through those auditions. So we were used to those type of challenges. But this one, again, I'll always be honest. If I had had a gun, I probably would have killed someone because they were doing everything they could to stop me getting better. So I wanted to do this. I go and they said, well, we want to take you through a psychological analysis because in America, it's all governed by lawyers. So their lawyers were basically the lawyers in Las Vegas owned the hotels. So I couldn't get a lawyer to represent me. So I had to go to California, find a lawyer that was able to practice in Nevada. And all I wanted to do, I never sued for money. I wanted the right to see my own doctors because all the doctors were shutting me down. And I think that resistance actually made me more determined to come back because now it wasn't just a physical issue. It was a restrictive issue that I'm saying, I want to break free. And I think it was a godsend. I think everything in life is a godsend. I think everything is an opportunity. It just matters how we see the lesson and what we're willing to do. And that transferred back into business.
But that was a very hard lesson to be lying almost entirely paralyzed in a hospital bed and see it. I'd see the possibilities. It's about as dark as it can get.
Yeah, God, well,
please.
I might tell you a story I've never told anybody, but we'll leave that one down a little bit. That was more about business, which actually was darker than that moment about business. But look, when we've suffered, we come back, we forget the suffering we've had. Yeah, we forget the pain. I remember when my dog passed away, I'm crying. Now I don't cry over losing him, but I still remember the moment, but I don't feel the same pain. So I remember going and sitting, when I got my own lawyer, all my records disappeared. There was suddenly no records of any incident. There was all my x-rays, MRIs, everything disappeared. Then they called me in to see a psychologist. And they said to me, we think you're lying about your injury. I wasn't suing for money. I said, how can that be? I've been in hospital and going through physical therapy. I had to learn to take a nut and put a nut on a screw and actually put it together. Then they'd have me pushing a shopping cart when I'm beginning to walk again around, follow the blue line, follow the yellow line, pick up this can, put it in the cart, push it. And I said to the psychologist, what do you want me to be? Because I'm an actor. You want me to be crazy? I'll be crazy. I'm an actor. That's what you want me to do. And it was crazy, Paul. Everything they did to try and numb us and dumb us down, which it was just an exaggeration of sometimes what happens in society, kids in school telling this is what you should be. This is all you can be, which is why the entrepreneurial life is so dynamic because we're stepping outside the box with walls that others built for us.
We spoke about this earlier as well in how you describe an entrepreneur because a lot of my audience are entrepreneurs. I'm an entrepreneur, but I think entrepreneurial is something wider than that. To me, it's anyone with that creative spirit that has a vision of how they want to live the life. It could be a mother, how she wants to raise her children, or a nurse. It could be anyone who wants to create someone, that spark of wanting to create something outside of what society insists you should be. I think that's that entrepreneurial flame.
It's interesting you say that, because I used to think that anyone crossing a finish line is a champion, right? You go out, the winner is the first one across the line. But to be a champion in life, you just got to cross the finish line. Well, one of my goals after paralysis was I decided I wanted to race a triathlon. I wanted to do an Ironman, because that for me would be the ultimate in recovery from the injury, to come out. What's the hardest thing I could do to prove and have this great goal? So this is where my perspective changed. I went up to Canada, up to Penticton, to race the Ironman Canada. And this was about 10 years later. And I'm standing at the start line, feeling fit. I've spent the money to go up there. I've been training for 7 months, super hard on the bike. I know you love the bike. I love the stuff. And they play the national anthem on top of the cliff by the side of the Lake Okanagan. The cannon goes off and we all go running in the water. And I'm near the front. I'm swimming like crazy. And suddenly some hand came over the back, grabbed and pushed me under the water to propel themselves forward. We're about 1.5 minutes. And of course, at the beginning, you're at the full amount of your oxygen intake. You're going, it's like sprinting to then get into your rhythm. When I went underneath the water, I couldn't get back up. There's 2,000 people behind me, or close to 2,000. And I'm trying to come back up and everyone's swimming and there's the water and the kicking, and I couldn't come up. And I realized I was going to drown. And so at some point I hit the peaceful mode. I just went into peace. Okay, it's over. And I just felt myself releasing all the fear. It's over. And once I hit the peace, I then turned and I saw a little gap, maybe 2 people size, and everyone's swimming. I'm like, that's my escape. So I calmly swam towards it because it's moving as everyone's going. I came up, and as soon as I hit the air again, I'm going, I can't do this. It's over. I can't do. And I lay there for about 3 minutes with people pushing by me, just going, it's done. I can't do this. And then I started to think, hang on a minute, you're okay. You've calmed down. You've realized, just get back in and just do it. Get back in the game. So I started, I don't know if you know much about swimming, but you can draft the same as you can on a bike. You can draft in the water. You get behind someone's feet and you swim. Yeah. And so I got in there and I started feeling good. And then I started passing these people and catching other people's feet and then going on to the next one. I had a fantastic swim. I got out there, got on the bike, had an incredible bike ride up over the Rockies, got back down. I'd never run a marathon in my life. The most I'd ever run was 16 miles because I had a dropped foot in training. I dropped arch in training. I had a great run, but when I'm about a mile away from the finish line, the guy next to me collapsed and he's completely frozen. And I didn't want to stop because I didn't know what's going to happen to me, but I'm shouting to the crowd, please come over, someone help him, someone help him. And he had just completely cramped up. I crossed the finish line. 30% of people that cross the finish line in Ironman will go to the medical tent and get either some sort of IV or treatment or something like that. So I crossed the finishing line, and about 30% of the people that complete the Ironman will go to the medical tent, whether it's IVs or some sort of treatment. I felt amazing. I stayed there. I helped everyone that was coming across the line. I took them to medical tents. At the end of the night, at midnight, when they had the cutoff, I jumped on my bike. I put my backpack on. I biked back to the hotel. I felt amazing. That's when it changed for me. It's not everyone that crosses the finishing line is a champion, because that guy didn't cross the finishing line. I saw people having crashes on their bikes, blood, helmets all over the place. They didn't cross the finishing line, but they were still a champion. A champion is someone that's willing to step over the start line, not knowing the journey ahead, but commit to being the best they can be. And that's where it comes back to the entrepreneurial journey, which is what I didn't realize I had lived my whole life. But exactly what you talk about, Paul, someone that can't sit inside the box, that may be scared to step outside because everyone's telling you, you'll fail, you can't do it, you can't create this, this is not who you are. Be regular, be normal, whatever that is. But if you're willing to take that first step over the start line and commit, boy, it can be a glorious journey, and the people you meet along the way will inspire you to continue to be everything you're born to be.
Yeah, what resonates with that is that when you do an Ironman or a marathon or anything, entrepreneurial or whatever it is, society or other individuals have determined what success is, what winning means. So you do the Ironman, and winning that Ironman is being the first person across the line the fastest time, whatever, and one person wins. And of course, technically that's true when it's the Olympics or something like that. But the reality of it is everyone that goes out and makes that effort and achieves that as a winner. But if you cross that finish line and you have damaged your health, or you end up on IVs, or you end up in hospital or something, what's the point? I mean, I ran the New York Marathon, I don't know, maybe 10 or 15 years ago. But I damaged my leg doing it, and I ended up having knee surgery a couple of years later. Now, I'm glad I did that, enjoyed doing it. But you have to ask yourself that if you pay a price, some people pay a price that's not worth paying. You have to define yourself what success is. That's what I'm, for a starter, you have to define what success is. And sometimes success is not what comes at the end. It's the race.
It's the lesson. Like, okay, so let's go back. New York Marathon, congratulations.
Thank you.
Great. You injured your leg. What was the lesson that you learned that you carry forward from that?
Well, there were two lessons actually. One was preparation, because actually wasn't. I mean, I was maybe 45 years of age when I ran it. I hadn't trained sufficiently for it, and I was not physically fit coming up to that. So my body wasn't properly prepared to run for 26 miles. It just wasn't. It needed longer preparation. That was the first thing. But around my mile 13, I started to hobble. But I'd never run a marathon before. I'd flown all the way to New York. My wife and 3 children were following me around, going from station to station. And this was a major event for me because I'd never been in sport all my life. And the decision was, I'm finishing this. Now, I actually can't remember how long it took me. My decision then was, I'm finishing this no matter what. And that, to me, was a huge achievement to finish it no matter what. So that maybe was the big lesson. I suppose I did end up a couple of years later having to have knee surgery. Was it caused by that? I don't know, probably. But the thing that changed as a result of that for me was that I had this major achievement. I'd run the New York Marathon. I had never in my life before been fit. Never. I mean, I just never. It wasn't of interest to me. But I'd gained so much in that. I kind of thought, well, you have to use this now. Like, you can't waste this. At the same time, my brother-in-law ran the Dublin Marathon, and the day he finished, he's never exercised since. Just didn't. But I worked so hard to get from no exercise, not moving, to running a marathon, that I said I will maintain that. And even after my knee, I said to myself, okay, I'm not going to run anymore. But now I said, we spoke with this, I cycle. And now fitness, of 50, almost 60 years of age, and fitness is a huge part of my life. So, and I think it's a major contributor to everyone's life. We know now it's the magic pill for health and wellness. So had I stopped at mile 13, would I have come to that same conclusion? Because the amount of benefits in my life. But I didn't win the marathon. I didn't come anywhere near that, but I didn't need to.
And again, you were able to wrap the experience into something that served you for the rest of your life, continues to serve you now. And we always pay a price. Look, I opened businesses that didn't succeed, but I didn't fail, right? There's this type of thing. Okay, I'll tell you this funny story. I was coaching a U8. I was a head coach on the Olympic program, Nike Coach of the Year, as I said. I got 40 players that I've trained that are playing pro, and I was opened a non-profit organization for kids. And I had this little boys team that were 10 years old. And we went out and we played in the State Cup. We played against a team of Hispanic players, talented, but much bigger than we were. and we lost 5-2. But we were brilliant. Anyone watching the game would have thought we were the better team. They had a big defender, big forward, kick it long, score the goal. But we were brilliant. So afterwards, we're in this big, 14-field stadium or area complex. And our field is near the exit gate. So I bring all the kids in, sit down, they're crying. I get the parents gathered around. All the other teams are walking by. And I say to the kids, all right, everyone, how you feeling? We lost. Okay, do this. Everyone put the L on your head. And they were like, oh my God. So the kids are doing it because I'm the coach and they're just doing it. The parents are like, what an ass coach. We play for this guy. All the other parents and teams are walking by, winners and losers, all turning around and going, what an ass. I'd never let myself, my kid play for that coach. I said, okay, what happened today? We lost. I said, did you? Yeah. What was the score? 5-2. Who was the better team? We were. I said, you can never lose if you learn. That L on your head is only determined by what you make it.
Learner versus loser, yeah.
You were brilliant. I said, I'm so proud of you here. All the parents going by, I'm hearing this. My parents are now going, oh, I like this coach.
Yeah.
But I'm like, you will never lose if you continue to learn. So when my businesses went under, it's only a lose if I didn't take what I learned forward. I have to learn lessons. There's a saying that I love. Every level has its own devil. Every level has its own devil. And that's why if we play video games, the first level, you can't beat it. And suddenly you beat it, you go to level 2. Now it's a little harder. You get through level 2. Then you lose. You go back to level 1 again. You're like, God, this is so boring. It's easy. But if you're not willing to face the devil that's saying, if you want to go to the next level, you've got to learn the lesson. You've got to understand. If you do, and that's why we have the pyramid of success, right? Everyone starts here. But as we go up the different levels, there's these different places where people get stuck and they settle. And there's nothing wrong with that. I see people that are super happy, that are settled, but maybe not living the life that I want. And that's why we're all different. But if you can learn the lesson and understand, the first question I always ask, why? Not why did it happen? Why do I need to experience this to learn to go to the next level? Because if I'm smart enough to learn it, I'm smart enough to overcome it. But if I have the resistance that goes on, it will actually take me down. If I'm not open to learn the lesson or try and find the thing, I've reached my level.